Before you scroll away, let me ask you something. Have you ever judged someone in just 1 second, only to realize later that you were completely wrong? Stay with this story until the very end, because what happens next will challenge the way you look at talent, pride, and humanity. And if stories that touch the heart and inspire you mean something to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because moments like this deserve to be shared. Everyone in the city knew her name. She was a world-famous singer, the kind whose voice filled stadiums and whose face shined from giant billboards. Her songs played in taxis, cafes, and homes, and people whispered her name with admiration. Fame had followed her for so long that she barely remembered life before applause. Wherever she went, people stood a little straighter, spoke a little softer. She had grown used to being the most important voice in any room. One evening, she was invited to a prestigious charity gala held inside a grand concert hall. Crystal chandeliers glowed above polished marble floors, and guests dressed in expensive suits and glittering gowns moved gracefully through the space. The air was thick with perfume, pride, and quiet competition. She was the star of the night, scheduled to perform a short set before the donors. Everyone waited for her arrival as if the night could not truly begin without her. Backstage, while assistants adjusted lights and organizers whispered instructions into headsets, a janitor quietly mopped the floor near the dressing rooms. He was an older man, dressed in a faded blue uniform, his hands rough from years of work. His name was Daniel. No one noticed him much, and he had learned long ago not to expect to be seen. He simply did his job carefully, respectfully, making sure the place shined for people who would never know his name. As he worked, Daniel softly hummed to himself. It wasn't loud, just a gentle sound meant only to keep him company. Music had always lived inside him. When he was younger, he dreamed of singing on a stage, but life had other plans. Responsibilities came early, chances came late, and eventually, they stopped coming at all. Still, music never left him. It was the one thing that reminded him who he really was. The famous singer heard the sound as she walked past with her entourage. She stopped abruptly, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. She frowned, irritated. To her, this night was about perfection, control, and image. A janitor humming backstage felt like a disturbance. She turned toward Daniel and laughed lightly, though there was no kindness in it. "Is that supposed to be singing?" she asked loudly enough for others to hear. A few assistants chuckled awkwardly, unsure whether to join in or look away. Daniel froze. His face warmed with embarrassment, and he lowered his head. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to disturb anyone." The singer smirked. "Well, maybe stick to mopping," she replied. "Some of us actually have voices worth hearing." The words landed heavier than she realized. Daniel nodded silently and moved away, his heart sinking. He had heard worse in life, but something about being mocked so casually, so publicly, reopened old wounds. Still, he swallowed the pain and returned to his work. Moments later, a technical issue caused a delay in the program. The audience waited impatiently, murmuring, growing restless. Backstage tension rose. To pass the time, one of the organizers jokingly said, "Hey, maybe we should let someone else sing while we fix this." Someone laughed and pointed toward Daniel. "Why not him?" another voice said, half joking. The singer overheard and rolled her eyes. "Please," she said. "That would be embarrassing." But fate has a strange way of turning jokes into turning points. The sound technician, desperate to fill the silence and calm the crowd, approached Daniel. "Sir," he said softly, "I heard you humming earlier. Do you sing?" Daniel hesitated. His hands trembled slightly. "I used to," he replied. "A long time ago." The famous singer crossed her arms, amused. She was curious now, not because she believed in him, but because she expected failure. "Go on," she said. "Let's hear it." The curtain was still down, the lights dim. Daniel stepped onto the stage slowly, his heart pounding so loudly he thought the audience might hear it. Hundreds of eyes turned toward him, confused. He gripped the microphone with both hands, took a deep breath, and closed his eyes. When he began to sing, the room changed. His voice was not loud at first, but it was pure. Smooth. Controlled. Each note carried emotion that couldn't be taught in expensive studios. The audience fell silent. People leaned forward in their seats. His voice climbed higher, richer, touching notes that seemed to float above the hall. There was pain in his voice, but also hope, humility, and strength. Backstage, the famous singer's smile faded. Her arms slowly dropped to her sides. As Daniel reached a note she herself had struggled with for years, one she rarely attempted live, her breath caught. He didn't just touch it, he held it, steady and effortless. The audience erupted in applause before the song even ended. Some stood. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Daniel finished softly, lowering the microphone as the final note echoed through the hall. For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then the applause thundered again, louder than before. Daniel looked around, overwhelmed. He had never experienced anything like this. He bowed slightly, unsure of what to do next. The famous singer walked onto the stage slowly. The crowd quieted, expecting her reaction. She looked at Daniel, really looked at him this time, not as a janitor, not as background noise, but as an artist. "I owe you an apology," she said into the microphone. "I judged you without knowing your story. Tonight, you reminded me why I started singing in the first place." Her voice trembled. Pride gave way to honesty. "Your voice reached places mine sometimes can't." The crowd applauded again, this time for both of them. Daniel smiled gently, his eyes shining. He didn't feel victorious. He felt seen. That night changed everything. Daniel was offered opportunities he never imagined: recordings, performances, interviews. He didn't become famous overnight, but he gained something even more important: dignity and recognition. The singer, too, changed. She became humbler, more open, using her platform to remind others that talent can live anywhere, even where we least expect it. And that is the real message of this story. Never underestimate someone because of their job, their clothes, or their place in life. Greatness often hides behind silence, waiting for a moment to be heard. If this story moved you, if it made you think or feel even a little differently, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories like this to light, stories that remind us all to listen more closely, judge less quickly, and believe that every voice matters. Before you scroll away, pause for just a moment, because this story proves that sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest miracles. If you believe in hidden talent and second chances, like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be heard. The famous singer arrived at the concert hall surrounded by lights, cameras, and applause. She was confident, admired, and used to being the center of every room. Her voice had won awards and filled arenas, and over time, fame had wrapped her in a shell of pride she barely noticed. To her, the world felt neatly divided between stars and everyone else. Backstage, an elderly janitor named Daniel moved silently across the floor with his cleaning cart. His uniform was old, his posture tired, but inside him lived a deep love for music. As he worked, he softly hummed an old melody, one he used to sing years ago when dreams still felt possible. Singing was the only thing that made long nights easier. The singer heard him and laughed, stopping in her tracks. "That doesn't sound like singing," she said mockingly. "Some people should know their limits." The words stung. Daniel lowered his head and quietly returned to work, his heart heavy with memories of all the times he had been told the same thing. Minutes later, a technical problem delayed the show. The audience grew restless, and an organizer jokingly suggested someone sing to fill the silence. Someone pointed toward Daniel. To everyone's surprise, he was handed a microphone and gently pushed onto the stage. His hands shook as he took a breath and began to sing. The first note silenced the room. His voice was rich, emotional, and powerful in a way that couldn't be learned, it was lived. Each note carried years of sacrifice, pain, and hope. When he reached a high note that echoed through the hall, even the famous singer froze. It was a note she herself could never reach. Tears filled the audience's eyes as applause exploded. The singer walked forward, humbled and speechless. "I was wrong," she admitted softly. Your voice is a gift. That night, Daniel didn't just sing, he was finally heard. And everyone learned a lesson they would never forget: never judge a soul by its uniform, because greatness often hides in the most unexpected places. Before you move on, stop for a second, because this story proves that true talent doesn't always wear a spotlight. If you enjoy emotional stories that inspire the heart, like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss one. The famous singer entered the grand hall with confidence shining on her face. She had spent years at the top, praised everywhere she went. Applause followed her like a shadow, and slowly, without realizing it, she began to believe that no voice could ever match hers. This night was meant to celebrate her success. In a quiet corner backstage, a janitor named Daniel pushed